Welcome, dear Sunnybank Bible Study family, to our daily gospel meditation on this Sunday, 2nd of August, 2026. Together, we will reflect on the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 13 to 21. The overflow of grace, 12 baskets of surplus.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredibly famous historical narrative, what's often called the unbroken stream narrative, drawn right out of the Gospel of Matthew. To start us off, I want you to just imagine for a second a really serene, quiet sunrise over the Sea of Galilee. You know, the water is gently rippling against a wooden boat, the morning mist is just starting to lift, and there's this profound sense of peace. That, right there, is the backdrop for the incredible source material we're unpacking today. We're going to break down this deeply moving story of absolute, overflowing abundance. But hey, before we really get into the weeds of this historical narrative, I want to invite you to do something. Just leave the anxieties of your to-do list right at the door. I mean, we live in a world that is so completely driven by scarcity and productivity, right? We measure our days by what we managed to get done, by what we didn't get done, by the ticking clock, and that constant nagging feeling that there simply isn't enough time or energy to go around. So, for the next few minutes, consider this explainer your personal invitation to just pause, take a really deep breath. We are stepping completely out of that economy of scarcity, and we're stepping into a narrative of limitless provision. So our starting posture today is super simple. Sit on the grass and be fed by the one who knows your every need. Mentally, just go ahead and place yourself right there beside the water. Get comfortable. We aren't here to frantically analyze a bunch of data today. Instead, we're preparing our minds and our hearts to receive a highly structured, yet beautifully moving account of compassion that honestly totally defies human logic. You literally don't have to bring anything to the table right now except your attention. Okay, so this unbroken stream narrative begins in Matthew chapter 14. It says, when Jesus received the news of the death of John the Baptist, he withdrew by boat to a lonely place where they could be by themselves. But the people heard of this and, leaving the towns, went after him on foot. So as he stepped ashore, he saw a large crowd, and he took pity on them and healed their sick. Now, what's absolutely crucial here is the emotional context. Jesus has literally just received devastating news. His cousin, John the Baptist, has been killed. He's mourning. So he rightfully seeks out a lonely place for some much-needed solitude. And yet, when his very human need for space collides with the sheer desperation of the pursuing crowd, his immediate response isn't annoyance. No way. It is deep, overwhelming pity. He literally sets his own grief aside to heal them. Then, as evening starts to fall, the whole situation shifts from this emotional need to a very stark physical reality. When evening came, the disciples went to him and said, "This is a lonely place and the time has passed, so send the people away, and they can go to the villages to buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "There is no need for them to go. Give them something to eat yourselves." You guys, the disciples are essentially having a moment of pure catering panic here. They are doing the math in their heads, it's getting late, they're out in the middle of nowhere, there are thousands of people milling around, and people are getting hungry. So their solution is completely practical, right? Just send them away. But Jesus just flips the script entirely. He tells them essentially, no, you do it. He invites them right into the middle of the impossible. And of course, their response perfectly highlights the problem. But they answered, "All we have with us is 5 loaves and 2 fish. Bring them here to me," he said. He gave orders that the people were to sit down on the grass. Then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, raised his eyes to heaven, and said the blessing. And breaking the loaves, he handed them to his disciples, who gave them to the people. The disciples are offering this meager, almost embarrassingly small amount of food. I mean, we're talking about a few pieces of barley bread and a couple of dried fish for thousands of people. But notice how Jesus doesn't focus on the limitation at all. He takes what little they have, raises his eyes to heaven, which acknowledges the true source of all provision, and he blesses it. And that act of breaking the bread, that is where the miracle is set into motion, completely bypassing the laws of physics. So what's the staggering conclusion to all this? They all ate as much as they wanted, and they collected the scraps remaining, 12 baskets full. Those who ate numbered about 5,000 men, to say nothing of women and children. To put that into perspective, we are talking about upwards of 10 to 15,000 people when you actually factor in the women and children. And not only did every single person eat, but the text makes a point to say they ate as much as they wanted. They were entirely satisfied. But the most striking detail of the whole shebang? 12 literal baskets full of remaining scraps were collected. Just think about that. An immense surplus remained from just 5 loaves and 2 fish. So let's break down what this actually means. See, the disciples were operating from a place of absolute deficit. Thousands of mouths, only 5 loaves. It was a mathematically impossible situation. But Jesus, he overturned the basic logic of the world by operating in overflowing grace, looking directly toward the Father's abundance. What's really fascinating here is that the disciples were trapped in the physical reality of scarcity, while Jesus was operating in this completely different spiritual reality of infinite grace. He wasn't just solving a sudden catering problem. He was providing this profound revelation of exactly how the kingdom of heaven operates. And this brings us to this wonderful concept of flourishing, which basically means to receive more than what is strictly necessary to survive. I mean, why did Jesus create so much extra food? He totally could have done the math and provided the exact caloric requirement for the crowd, down to the very last crumb, right? But he didn't. He provided a massive surplus. And this just perfectly illustrates that Jesus doesn't merely want to satisfy our basic need to survive. He provides a surplus so that our souls might truly flourish. It's a huge statement about the very character of God. He's for sure not a God of the bare minimum. So how does this ancient story translate to us today? Well, in moments of deepest exhaustion, his provision is always an overflow. I really want you to let that sink in for a minute. When you're looking at your own life, your relationships, your work, your spiritual energy, and you feel like you literally only have 5 loaves and 2 tiny fish left to give, you are exactly where the disciples were. When you feel entirely emotionally or spiritually depleted, his provision is always an overflow. As we start to wrap up this explainer, I'd love to share a closing reflection. It goes like this: Lord, nourish our souls with the bread of life. When we feel the weight of our own inadequacy, remind us of the 12 baskets of surplus. May we trust in your generous hand and become witnesses of your grace to a world in need. Amen. It's such a wonderful reminder to just keep in your back pocket whenever the modern world tries to tell you that you simply aren't enough. And that leaves us with one final lingering question to think about. How will you become a basket of grace for others today? You've seen the mechanics of the miracle now. You've seen exactly how absolute deficit is transformed into flourishing abundance when it's placed in the right hands. Take that spiritual surplus and challenge yourself to share it with someone you meet today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep looking for the overflow, and I will catch you in the next one.